Marvin is joining me on this episode to talk about their brand new DApp release for Maestro. And this is really good for anyone that is building anything in the Cardano ecosystem or this infrastructure is needed to really speed up the development and everything else around it. So Marvin, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here again. And thank you for building what you guys are doing. Can we go through what you guys have done for the ecosystem here? And I'd love to get a big overview because there is quite a bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really happy. Thank you for having me today. We announced recently a big announcement, the release of our DApp developer platform. We really see it as like the most advanced DApp platform on Cardano. You know, it's kind of bringing you all the advanced developer tools and APIs to give you the building blocks to scale and build with ease. We were in beta for a couple of months, and now we finally released the full V1. So now it's open to the public for everyone to use. And already we've had amazing growth. You know, we've had over 15 million API calls to our platform. We have an average of 300,000 requests a day. So we're just very grateful that people are liking it, people are using it, and a lot of projects are now being powered by Maestro to build their application.
Did you say 15 million API calls already?
Yes. I mean, it may sound more incredible than it is. I think it's actually quite typical.
Yeah. Okay.
A DApp will, when it runs through a SaaS platform, will make, hundreds of calls, every minute, every time a user clicks and build the transactions and query a DEX or an NFT marketplace to load those NFTs. All these more interactions, right? Under the hood, they need to query on-chain data. And that's really what we provide is this indexed access to on-chain data to power your NFT marketplace, your DEX, your lending protocol, even wallets. Really anything that needs on-chain data can use Maestro.
So how were people doing it before, and how does this experience compare to it?
Yes, so there are two ways to do it. The one way is self-hosting. So you host your own infrastructure. So that starts with the Cardano node that's well synced. And on top of that, you have very complex indexing pipeline, data processing pipeline that then gives you the data you want. And it's very heavy on infrastructure. So some projects have been doing that themselves, running, for example, like a DB sync node. But there are a lot of issues with that, scalability, maintainability, and cost. You have other providers like Blockforce. So Blockforce has been around for a while and has been a great provider for DApps. But Maestro has a much more broader vision. And we can go through, we have like three main services that we focus on that really expands the scope of what we can provide and gives you like more building blocks to empower developers to build.
Yeah, I'd like to understand the scope and the features that you guys are providing compared to what's out there already. So please explain away.
Yeah, so to keep it simple, there are just three main services that are live today. We have what we call our blockchain indexer. That's really the core of our infrastructure. This is a high performance, low latency Cardano API. So like I was saying earlier, most dApps need on-chain data. And so we'll provide this, we abstract away all that interface so you can get really high-speed access to on-chain data. The second one is our transaction manager. So this is actually the first of its kind on Cardano. We're the only one doing this transaction monitoring / alerting system. And that allows you to, once you've queried the blockchain, build your transaction, let's say you buy an NFT, you submit it. And then when you submit it, you need feedback from the blockchain. You need to know, is it pending? Is it on chain? Has it been rolled back? And so dApps need access to those, we call them events, in order to give you that sense of reactivity and really improve the user experience. And if you don't do that, then you submit a transaction and it's really hard for the user to get a sense of what's happening to my transaction. So a manager kind of abstracts away all of that notification system around a user's transaction. And the last thing is what we call the turbo transaction. So on Cardano, we don't have a free market, which I think is great. It's inclusive, it's fair. You can't pay extra, to get in front of the line when submitting your transaction. Transaction fees are constant. But there are ways to help your transactions propagate to the mempool. And especially when the network is under load, sometimes, especially big transactions, propagate slowly through the network. And so we've devised a way to help boost, especially bigger transactions when the network is under load, kind of propagate faster, so that essentially your transaction stays pending less long than before. So these are the 3 products that are live. We have other 2 ones that we're working on that we have actually Catalyst proposal for, and maybe we can cover that a bit later.
Yeah, we'll get into those catalyst proposals so we can understand a little bit more what you guys are trying to build next. But I'd just like to touch on a couple of things there, and that notification and feedback from the blockchain, so we know if transactions are pending. I think in the Web 2 space, I'm so used to being able to access webhooks and feedback information. So, for example, when you're building an e-commerce website, you submit the payment transaction, and then that payment provider has to send something back to know that it's gone through. Then you can hook in email notifications and everything else around it to tell the user, yes, your payment's gone through and now we're processing your order. There's so much to that process. I didn't know there was that missing link there. I thought a lot of people just like handle it themselves or something. So I think that's actually a really important part of that process.
Yeah, no, you got it exactly right, and I think you have the right intuition. It's extremely common in Web 2. I mean, this is how we interact. We get notifications, we get feedback from every time we use our apps. And to be fair, people have built this on Cardano, but they've often built it for themselves, right? And so you have some of the top apps that have their own notification system, but it's closed source, right? It's not accessible for smaller projects that need to build these things from scratch. And that's really what Maestro is about. Is like, can we find tool functionality that is generic enough that most applications would need, and then build it once, right? And then scale, instead of forcing small projects and small teams, to reinvent the wheel, especially for this basic interaction that we can all agree would make the user experience better.
Very cool. And then you mentioned turbo transactions. I like that too. Actually, a lot of people have been contacting me on a really old tutorial that I've done in the past about connecting your NAMI wallet to a dataless node. So that way you have your own node set up and it will submit and bypass a lot of these mempools that a lot of these service providers use. So having a service that you can tap into, because a lot of people could use Blockfrost API or whatever else is out there. But there's that technical barrier to know how to set that all up. So having this from Maestro as well gives the user another option. You don't need to set up a node. You don't need to set up any of your own infrastructure, and you can push out your transaction a little bit faster. So I really like that, and I'll probably will get some documentation around that too, to try and help people get those transactions out. Because I know during all these really popular mints, people are trying to get through the line quicker, and anything that can get them to the front is very, very desirable. So I think this is quite a cool feature too.
Yeah, and we have extensive documentation that show you how to use these things. And, Eternal is a great wallet. You could build the transactions, and instead of submitting it, you can just download it and then submit it through our API, through our Turbo Transaction API. So you can still use what you're used to, the browser wallet. You have to build the transaction yourself, but then you can submit it through API. That's a quick way for people, I think, to benefit from it. But also, a lot of projects would want to use that as kind of their default submission endpoints for their users.
Very cool. All right. I see a video tutorial coming up on that one so people can tap into it. So for anyone that wants to use the platform, what are the costs behind it? Some other platforms have like a free tier, then paid tiers. Is there anything that people can easily tap into and get started with?
Yes, and we're following a very standard SaaS business model. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to really learn from the lessons of Web 2 and how these businesses are run. And like you said, there's always a free tier. I think a free tier is a big part of this platform. It's a way of getting people to use it and convince themselves that it's useful. So we have a great free tier that gives you like almost all of our features. It's just like a limited amount of credits per day. We also have our first paid tier, which is a fixed amount per month. And we made it super cheap. We made just $9 a month. It's just like a Netflix subscription, depending on where you live, I guess. But that gives you almost all the features, basically all the features you want, with just that $9 a month. And I think that's great for like students or small projects or projects that got started but don't have large volume. And then the third tier is just pay as you go. And we went with this one because if you're running a business or an enterprise, you don't want your subscription to shut down when you run out of credits. You just want to keep paying as you go and based on usage. And so if Sundays you're not using it, you don't get charged. If you use it more, you get charged. So I think we really thought about it very carefully, and we have a plan for everyone's needs.
Very smart indeed. Now, to get started, you said there's documentation. Is it quite extensive so anyone can start building straight away?
Yes, so we have a quick starter guide, showing you how to query the blockchain, your first query, terminate your first transaction, how to manage your transaction. And then we have a UI dashboard. So the dashboard is quite intuitive. You can just log in with your email and very quickly create your API key and see even like feedback. So we have extensive kind of monitoring of all your transactions and your API calls. So you can see also the distribution of transactions that are being used under the hood. And you can kind of do some post analysis of, oh, I can see my users are using a lot of this API call and less this API call. Maybe I can optimize this for that. So we'll also kind of give you some useful metrics.
That is very useful indeed. And we'll probably go through the API documentation ourselves for our own Cardano Press plugin and start putting in integrations for that as well, because we're currently supporting Blockfrost. We were going to support another one as well. But if all the documentation is there, we can start tapping into it and give users more options out there to start integrating in with the Cardano blockchain and everything that Maestro is doing. Now, what about the future of Maestro? You said you've got a couple of 3 or 4 catalyst proposals out there as well. What are you guys building next? What are you getting funding for? And we could probably dig deeper into these ones as well and learn a little bit more about the platform.
Yeah, so we have a couple of proposals, and maybe we don't have time to go through each one of them. So I'll pick maybe 2 or 3 that I want to highlight. I think that's probably better, and the ones that I'm excited to. Yeah. So the first one is around bringing DeFi Analytics to the public. Right now, we don't have a good platform for people to query DeFi data. And by DeFi data, I mean basically everything you would see on tap tools. The current price, the change in trends, the top coins, and even go lower than that, like the orders coming into a DEX, all the loans happening and what are the interest rates. And that's really powerful for, researchers, hedge fund managers, or even devs that just want to find new patterns in the ecosystem and not get stuck. I mean, Tap2 is an incredible tool, but it would be nice if you could create your own graphs from scratch, right? And kind of create your own time series analysis and look back through history and discover your own trends. And it turns out that offering that type of what we call DeFi smart contract feeds fits really well with the infrastructure we built. So it's only an incremental improvement of building on top of our indexer, this kind of time series focused DeFi data. And then we'll have like a graphical interface on top of that, where now you can compare all the dexes side by side and see where the volume is going, where are the trends, what are the top gainers, even find arbitrage opportunities. And we got this idea from popular projects like June Analytics on Ethereum. I've used June Analytics myself on Ethereum, and it's just an incredible tool to find patterns in DeFi. And it's fun, and you get to share your graph with other people. And so we want to bring that to Cardano. And so we have a proposal for it. And so if you want more details, I invite you to check it out.
Brilliant. And what else have you guys got? I did have a look over the overview sheet, and there's quite a few interesting things here. But June Analytics is a very cool tool, and having that in the Cardano ecosystem will be very exciting.
Yes, the other one I'd like to mention is a great partnership with Anastasia Labs. So this is a new auditing firm composed of some of the top Plutus devs in the space. They've worked on Wing Rider and Lucid and other top projects. And so they want to really bring to Cardano a library of open source contracts. Because traditionally Cardano has been harder to build, a lot of contracts till this day are quite closed source. We need a movement towards, can we offer a library of open source contracts for anyone to use, right? Just open. And that also happens. It's offered by something on Ethereum called Open Zeppelin. And you just can, again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel and use contracts that have been standardized and used in the past and audited. But they needed a partner to then make it a end-to-end product. And so they're partnering with us to do what we call like managed contracts or plug and play contracts. And so it's A good analogy is like, it's a bit like Marlowe runtime, but allow you to run any contracts that you want. And so we plug in those open source contracts into our platform. And then in a few clicks, you can now interact with those contracts, and we manage the entire interaction. So that means building a transaction, summoning them, giving you updates on the state of the contract. And that really lowers the barrier to entry significantly, because you could be now a Web2 company that just imports this Web3 plugin that gives you like a button that says now you can have a vesting contract, now you can have an NFT, a royalty contract, and we just handle the rest. And so we're excited about that, and that's also another proposal that we have.
I am super excited about that one. That's the level where we are. And I was talking to a Web3 agency here in Australia, and they do a lot of the Solidity side of development. And when they're quoting on projects, they literally say, yeah, we can do that in a couple of weeks. We've got all those contracts ready to go. And they told me, yeah, it's just plug and play. We can build pretty much any DApp that you guys are interested in and get it up and running pretty quickly. Then I asked them, what about Cardano? How can you build anything in that? Like, oh, can you? Like, have you even looked into it? And they said they had. And they said it will take us many, many months to up to a year to build anything, just because nothing's readily available and have to do all the research. And then they told me some estimated costs. I thought, well, okay, that probably sounds about right. But having something like this whole open smart contract library of resources and end-to-end integration, just a couple of clicks and we can get something up and running, is super powerful for agencies out there. And I'm really excited about that one, because we want to be able to deliver solutions for companies quickly and easily like this. I'm assuming these smart contracts be audited as well at some point to make it really safe for anyone to just pick up and start using.
Yes. So the thing is that these can be crowdsourced, right? So the community could submit their own contracts. And so we'll have like a labeling system that will clearly indicate this was audited by who when you'll have access to the report. And this is maybe not audited yet. And we could maybe find a way to fundraise to help those contractors audited for the community, for everyone to use. So I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot you can do with these things and encourage the community to continue to build on those contracts and get them audited and create like an ecosystem that empowers other people. And like you said, at the end of the day, businesses, they care about functionality, the end functionality. They don't really want to get into the business of I want to build this custom contract from scratch. I want to, reinvent the wheel. I just have this product idea, and if I can compose multiple contracts that's already been tested and standardized, it just significantly, speeds up a lot of these development timeline.
Okay, and there's also a couple of other ones proposed. I've been looking at this. Also, integration with Optim Bonds as well. I know Optim's been gaining quite a lot of popularity at the moment in regards to integrations for ISPOs. So you can borrow ADA, put it into a bond, and then have that lot more ADA into your ISPO staking. Can you talk about this proposal and what you guys are doing around that one?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love what Optim is doing. They're being creative, and they're trying to think creatively how we can use the features of Cardano. And these loans, there's no liquidation risk. There's no collateral. It's a loan that doesn't work like other loans. And that's because of the way staking is done on Cardano is, although you take the loan on ADA, that you never have custody of that ADA. That ADA is staked on your behalf, but it's safe in the contract. So you just cannot run away with it. So you don't need collateral, and therefore you don't have liquidations. And so it's this very elegant way of kind of innovating in the bond and lending fields. And allow people to hedge their bets and get more rewards. So they're really doing the heavy lifting in this partnership. We thought it would be great to partner. We have an ISPO marketplace where we display all the top current and upcoming ISPOs on Cardano. You're able to in one click, delegate to those ISPOs. So we thought, let's partner together so that you can have an extra button that says, hey, get a bond, leverage your stake, and now you can, 5x or whatever, 10x your amount of stake to that pool and get more rewards and all that integrated together. So I think it's one of those partnerships that just makes sense. We talked to them and the agreement came very quickly. We're like, this totally makes sense. This is a win-win. And it just makes it better for everyone in the community. So I look forward to like more and more of these cross project collaboration and just to make it, like a cool like DeFi experience that doesn't feel like anything else.
Yeah, I think it's very unique, and I absolutely love it as well. I love ISPOs. It's just a very easy mechanism to get behind a project and get some of those popular tokens out there. And it's worked quite well for me. I've looked back at my wallet over the last year of some of these ISPOs. Some aren't that great, but there are some absolutely fantastic ones out there that have done really well, and absolutely love the model. Now, this other proposal here that I was looking at, and I think this one's rather important for Maestro and decentralization as well. And this is the Cardano Kubernetes Orchestra one. And this, I think it allows you to run your own infrastructure. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's basically us open sourcing, a big chunk of our backend. So you get to know, what we're doing on behind all of this to run this indexer and end-to-end from syncing your Cardano node, indexing the data into a data store, and then building an API on top of that. And so we're open sourcing that part of our infrastructure for anyone to then run it themselves, right? And then it helps decentralize kind of the data providers. So you could now connect your data provider, to Lucid or Atlas or Mesh, all those great PAP solutions. Also have the possibility of being compatible with your own locally run indexer. And so, we wanted to give that back to the community and hopefully, get them to contribute and make it better and give people choice. At the end of the day, we don't want to lock people in. It's about choice. There will always be people that will pay for SaaS services because they don't want to run things themselves. And we have a lot of economies of scale. Running that entire infrastructure for one project can be quite expensive, but when you run it for multiple projects, you kind of get the economies of scale. But a lot of people do value decentralization, and they want to run a lot of the infrastructure themselves. And we believe that that's something that we need to continue to support and show that we are honestly want to offer those solutions to for people that want to.
Yeah, I think it's a really good option for people to have. I think some people might be afraid of the costs once they start running their own infrastructure, and I think having these SaaS platforms is a really good option for in-between projects that don't quite have all that the funding they need to run the infrastructure. So I think it's many really good options there. I think this final one catalyst proposal that I saw as well was actually building on Maestro. And I thought that was pretty good. And maybe we'll hold off our Cardano Press development until this one comes in as a challenge so that we can do the integration as well. But can you talk about this one and why you guys put this one up as a challenge?
Yeah, so this one is all the fund that will be raised for this catalyst will be for us to actually sponsor other projects building on Cardano. We have, as you can imagine, projects contacting us on a regular basis. They want to use Maestro. They want to advance, their project. But many teams have, either very small or very small budget. And sometimes we're like, man, we wish we could just sponsor your idea. Like, we love what you're building. We think it's a great idea. And, we would kind of help you get off the ground. Obviously, it's financially, it's not something we can do with everyone. But with this proposal, it would be a kind of a way for projects to apply for a grant or sponsorship. And then we'll go through a vetting process that will be extremely transparent and open to the community. We'll show exactly how each project, proposal how is being graded and selected. And then we're probably going to pick 2 to 3 top projects that will be sponsoring for the duration of their project. And it's not just us sponsoring and leaving them be. It's a real partnership. So we're going to help them in the development. We're going to help them execute on their project. We're going to provide some guidance. So it's both, of our own time and bring our experience building on Cardano and providing that monetary boost so that they can also fund their development. And the end deliverable is to then create a fun demo day where these projects get to, demonstrate to the community what they've built through this program and kind of show off, how they leverage Maestro to build their application. And I think we're very excited about that. We're looking forward for these applications and see what people come up with. and help this project, get off the ground and, get their product in the hands of people.
That sounds absolutely amazing. And I know you guys can tap into all the resources at Genius X as well. And I'm pretty sure if some project comes through Maestro and builds something really, really cool, they can bridge off and branch off to the Genius X accelerator and be taken through that whole platform there and grow to an amazing and big project. So I'm looking forward to everything around that and seeing what comes out of it too. But Marvin, is there anything else that the community needs to know about the platform and what you guys are doing?
Honestly, I think that covers it. I think that's really most of what I wanted to cover. One more thing maybe is we're releasing a brand new design of our website in maybe 10 days. And we put a lot of effort into it to make it look very professional and give you a good sense of like all the different products. So it's less on the technical side, but just more on the visual side. I think hopefully you guys will like it. And so I invite you to check out our new landing page in the next week or two.
Brilliant, Marvin. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode and taking me through everything that you guys have been up to. It's a mammoth amount of work, and it's going to make it a lot easier for a lot of developers and projects out there building on Cardano. So thank you so much for all your efforts there, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debating.